Welcome to Speed Vision. On October 12, 2003, people celebrated Michael Schumacher's sixth coronation as F1 world champion at the Suzuka circuit. At the same time, a Dutch driver named Jos Verstappen sadly ended his F1 career that lasted 107 Grands Prix in the corner where no one noticed. Jos Verstappen started his F1 career at Benetton 10 years ago as teammate of Michael Schumacher. After a dramatic conflagration in his rookie season, he finished 2 consecutive podiums and was almost on the verge of being among the top drivers. It's a pity that fate eventually pushed him and Mike Schumacher to 2 extremes, and Jos Verstappen almost kept fighting for his driver's seat in the remaining 100 races. This seemingly failed career is not worthless, because it allows Jos Verstappen to meet a very important person in his life. She is the Belgian Sophie Kumpen, who Horner and Jensen Button both call the world's best female karting driver. The 2 people who fell in love and got married gave birth to a boy named Max Verstappen on September 30, 1997. Born into such a family of racing drivers, it was only natural for Max to follow his parents in racing. Max's driver's story started even earlier than Jos himself expected. This is a photo from the 2000 European Grand Prix at the Nürburgring. Max, 2 years and 8 months old, accompanied his father Jos to finish 13th in the race. At that time, Max didn't know the difference between the huge F1 car in front of him and the 4-wheeled toy he played in the garden. But Max's racing life began here. 1 year later, Jos, who was racing abroad, suddenly received a call. Max, who was only 4 years old, cried after seeing other children driving karts and wanted a kart. The helpless Jos and his wife finally fulfilled their son's little wish. In this way, Max sat in the cockpit of the go-kart for the first time. As Jos' own career came to an end, it was logical for him to devote all his energy to cultivating Max. Although Jos is not an honest person, he had been on probation for violence, and he wasn't a particularly good husband, and his marriage to Sophie eventually came to an end. But he does count as a good father and a good coach. He combined his love for his son with his own passion for motorsports and unfulfilled dreams, creating a special growth path for Max's career as a driver. During Max's karting career, Jose trained his son in an extremely strict way. Jos took Max to go all over the large and small karting tracks in Europe, personally preparing the chassis and debugging the engine for his son. Even in very bad weather, Max has to stay on the track and continue his training. Jos also secretly changed some settings on the car to improve Max's sensitivity to racing. Even in some very simple races, Jos would forbid him to overtake in some easy-to-overtake positions to stimulate Max's deeper reading ability for the track and the race. Compared with data analysis, Jos also believes more in the driver's feeling about the car. He hopes that Max can know how to drive under different conditions, experience the tire grip on wet tracks and the feedback of racing cars on different lines, feel and find the limit position through the body. When the young Max made a mistake in the game, Jos would criticize and punish him very directly. As we all know, in the 2012 Karting KZ2 World Championship Finals, Max retired from the race because of reckless overtaking and rushed off the track. Even though he had overcome the car's problems before and took pole position, Jos was still extremely angry at the mistake. After coming out of the track, Max found that his father had already driven away. 15-year-old Max is at a loss because he was abandoned in the paddock by his father. Later, Jos talked about this matter in an interview. He said that he did not want Max to be confused by a large number of easy wins, so he preferred to choose ruthless severity to treat every mistake Max made. And this special training mode really well explored Max's talent. At the age of 7, he first started racing karting in Belgium, where he was born. Although Max later chose to play for the Netherlands like his father, Belgium has always been his other home game. A year later, the 8-year-old Max won the Belgian Rotax Minimax class, which is usually attended by riders over 10 years old. Then in 2007, he went on to win the championship in different karting categories in Belgium and the Netherlands. By 2009, the 11-year-old Max was signed by Team Pax Racing, the customer team of the famous karting manufacturer CRG. In the 21 fights he played in that same year, he surprisingly won them all. So in 2010, Max, who won a lot of national karting championships, was officially signed by the CIG factory team. He started competing in European and international karting competitions. Except for being defeated by Albon, who was 1 year older than him, at the KF3 World Championships that year, Max basically didn't know what it was like to take second place. By 2013, the 15-year-old Max won 2 European championships and defeated Leclerc to win the KT Championship of the youngest FIA Kart World Championship in history. After that, he ended his extremely dazzling karting career. Jos also arranged for Max to experience a single-seater formula for the first time that year. Max started a new phase of his career in a Formula Renault car with a Dutch team owned by British Manor Motorsport. Coincidentally, in 2001, at that time, Hamilton also started to get in touch with low-level Formula competitions with the help of Manor Motorsport. In several Formula Renault tests in 2013, Max showed stability and control far beyond that of drivers of this level. So Jos and the team made a bold decision. They wanted Max to skip the Formula Renault level and directly enter the F3 competition. This is a very risky decision, because F3 is closer to F1 than Formula Renault, and the difficulty of getting started is relatively high. It will be very difficult for a young driver to move up to a higher level of competition if he doesn't do well for 1 or 2 years at the lower levels. But Max seems to be a genius born for racing. In his 6th European F3 race, he won the pole position and race victory. Then he joined the European 2014 season F3 Drivers' Championship competition. The 16-year-old Max won 6 consecutive victories this year with a rare stability at this age, winning a total of 10 races, one more than the champion driver of the year, Ocon. In the end, mainly due to engine failure at the end of the season, he was unable to win the European F3 Drivers' Championship. However, Max's amazing performance quickly attracted the attention of many F1 teams, including Mercedes and Red Bull, who showed great interest in this young man. Of course, F1 has never lacked talented drivers. Even if you are strong enough to conquer a level of competition in a year, you still need to improve your competition level step by step. Jumping from karting to F3 is already hard to imagine. And jumping directly from F3 to F1 is almost an impossible event. But Dr. Marco at the time was willing to take a big gamble for Max. After meeting the Verstappen father and son, Marco quickly decided to join the adventure. He moved the 16-year-old Max into the Red Bull Youth Training Program in August 2014 and began to obtain the Super Driver's License certification for Max to enter F1. Before 2015, drivers did not need to earn driver's license points to join F1, and they could issue a super driver's license after passing the F1 assessment. So when Max hadn't touched an F1 car, Red Bull had already given Max the seat of the Toro Rosso team for the 2015 season. In September 2014, he successfully obtained a super driver's license to drive an F1 car. At the Japanese Grand Prix a month later, Max, who was just 17 years and 3 days old, participated in the first Friday practice session for Toro Rosso, becoming the youngest driver in history to participate in an F1 Grand Prix weekend. Although the Mercedes team was also pursuing him at that time. By the 2015 season, Max chose to start his first F1 season as an official driver of the Toro Rosso team. On this day, he was 17 years and 166 days old. 2 years ago, Max, who was still driving a go-kart, went directly to the top track of Formula racing at such a terrifying speed. At the beginning of the 2015 season, the FIA launched the Super Driver's License point system, and later there was an age limit of 18. Therefore, it should be difficult for latecomers to break the record of Max becoming the youngest F1 driver. He partnered Carlos Sainz in the 2015 season, and Max overcame a mechanical problem in the opening match. In the second race of the season, the Malaysian Grand Prix, he finished 7th, becoming the youngest point winner in F1. A 4th in Hungary made him the best single race finish for Toro Rosso since Vettel in 2008. In the second half of the season, Max's performance continued to improve. He scored points in 6 consecutive games, including another 4th-place finish in the US Grand Prix, which made him the best rookie of the year without any suspense. His aggressive and daring overtaking in many races has left a very impressive impression. He doesn't have the stage fright of any rookie driver, and of course setbacks are inevitable, especially the mistake Max made against Grosjean's Lotus in Monaco, which also caused him to be labeled as dangerous driving by some people. After Max continued to play for Toro Rosso for 4 more games in the 2016 season, Red Bull suddenly announced the adjustment of the driver's seat. Max and Kvyat exchanged seats. With the strong support of Horner and Marco, he entered the Red Bull racing team ahead of schedule. And this time, Max's new teammate is also a talented driver, the Australian driver Daniel Ricciardo, who has hoped for Red Bull's revival. At that time, most people believed that Max should first become the number 2 driver of Red Bull Racing and accumulate experience to serve the team. But in the first game on behalf of Red Bull, he created a miracle. At the 2016 Spanish Grand Prix, Max and Ricciardo started from the second row. After the red light went out, the 2 protagonists of the season, Hamilton and Rosberg, quickly retired in the infighting. The ensuing game is the competition between Red Bull and Ferrari. Ricciardo lost the leading position under Ferrari's undercut tactics, which worked quite well. Instead, Max persevered to the end. Under Raikkonen's onslaught, the 18-year-old and 288-day-old Max crossed the finish line with a slight advantage of 0.616 seconds and won the first Grand Prix victory of his career. Of course, he also broke Vettel's record again. He became the youngest F1 champion. Throughout the season, Max finished on the podium 6 times and finished 4th in the drivers' standings. Although he failed to surpass his teammate Ricciardo in terms of single-lap ranking and points, Max, who has just grown up, still showed abilities far beyond his age. For example, in the wetlands of the Brazilian Grand Prix, he completed an amazing overtaking performance of 15 consecutive laps and 11 positions in the final stage of the race. This reminds everyone of the performances of drivers such as Mike Schumacher in Spain in 1996 or Ayrton Senna in 1984 on wet ground. Max didn't get very unanimous approval, as he often made some overly aggressive offensive and defensive moves. This has also attracted criticism from many people in the industry and even drivers in the same competition. I believe F1 fans at that time, especially Ferrari fans, didn't have a good impression of him. In the Belgian Grand Prix in the 2016 season, Max collided with Kimi Räikkönen after the start and made aggressive defenses against Vettel and Kimi many times. On the 57th lap of the Hungarian Grand Prix, Räikkönen, ranked 6th, tried to overtake Max in front. The Dutch teenager changed his line in the braking zone while defending, resulting in a collision between the 2 cars. Including Hamilton in this year's Japanese Grand Prix also encountered Max's braking zone defense, so that the FIA later issued a rule prohibiting the realization of the braking zone. During that time, it was known as the Verstappen rule. But in this year, he still had a brilliant game performance. For example, in the first lap of the Chinese Grand Prix, he rushed from 16th to 7th, and finally boarded the podium of the 3rd place. And he completely dominated the race in the Malaysian Grand Prix and the Mexican Grand Prix later in the season, winning the 2nd and 3rd Grand Prix victories of his career. Although he still failed to beat Ricciardo at the end of the season, at least in qualifying where everyone generally believed that Ricciardo was stronger, Max had a slight advantage with a score of 13-7. Although there were a lot of controversies at the time, judging from the statements of Horner and Marco on various occasions, it is obvious that Max, as a key training driver, enjoys the tolerance and room for growth. But the situation did not improve, and the controversies and accidents he got into were more and more at that time. The start of the 2018 season has been one of the most stressful of Max's career. In the opener Australia, he spins himself. After crashing in qualifying in Bahrain in the second race, he collided with defending champion Hamilton in the race and retired. In the third Chinese Grand Prix, he crashed into Vettel's Ferrari while trying to overtake and was fifth Spanish Grand Prix of the season. Max rear-ended Lance Stroll under the virtual safety car. In the sixth round of the season, the Monaco Grand Prix, Max crashed again in the third practice session, causing him to miss the qualifying session. In stark contrast to Max's 6 consecutive races involved in accidents this season, his teammate Daniel Ricciardo won 2 races in the first 6 races. This put a lot of pressure on Max. Fortunately, the Dutchman quickly adjusted his state during the season. Later in the 2018 season, he showed the potential of a championship driver. Max has been on the podium in 10 of the remaining 15 races after round 6, including 2 victories at home for Red Bull in Austria and Mexico. Of course, in the Brazilian Grand Prix, which was also expected to win, he was the leader when he lapped the Force India driver Ocon, but was knocked off the track by Ocon, who wanted to reverse the lap, and finally lost the championship. After the game, Max found Ocon, and the two had some disputes. In the end, he was sentenced to 2 days of public service for pushing and shoving Ocon. On the other hand, because his teammate Ricciardo encountered serious car stability problems in the middle of the season. In terms of single-lap performance, he was gradually surpassed by Max. Finally, at the end of the season, Max surpassed Ricciardo with a relatively large advantage, and once again won the 4th place in the driver's year. His outstanding performance in the second half of the season also won the recognition of many media at the time. It was generally believed that Max only needed to change his rough driving style to truly join the ranks of the World Championship. By the 2019 season, the Red Bull team said goodbye to Ricciardo and Renault, joined hands with a new engine supplier Honda, and brought Max a young French driver Pierre Gasly as his new partner. Of course, this also means that from this season onwards he will lead the team into a new era as the real Red Bull #1 driver. However, at the beginning of the season, the 2 Mercedes cars have always occupied the top 2 places on the podium, and it is Max's biggest goal to compete with the 2 Ferrari cars for the remaining podium position. He finished on the podium in both Australia and Spain, and basically finished in the top 5 the rest of the races. Until the return to the Austrian station, Mercedes' state fell back a little. Max chased after a bad start, and finally passed Leclerc with a more controversial attack on the penultimate lap to win the Honda engine's first victory since the 2006 season. However, in the subsequent British Grand Prix, Max had a collision with Vettel again, and failed to continue his impact on victory. But soon at the German Grand Prix, at the Hockenheimring in the rain, Max returned to the highest podium with his excellent performance on the wet ground. And in the next Hungarian station, he had a very fierce confrontation with the defending champion Hamilton. In the end, he failed to make it and missed his 3rd win in 4 fights. After the summer break, Max's second half of the season wasn't smooth. At Spa, he collided with Kimi. A race penalty at Monza put him in a race with Perez on the track. In Suzuka, he collided with Leclerc. In Mexico, he collided with Bottas and caused a puncture. So in the driver standings, Leclerc, who had just joined Ferrari at the time, gradually caught up and overtook Max. Fortunately, when the season came to an end, Max rediscovered the performance of the RB15 car and got the pole position in the Brazilian Grand Prix with better performance. In the main race, he surpassed Hamilton twice to win the race. Ultimately, in the Drivers' Championship, Max overtook two Ferrari drivers to end the season with a career-best third place of the year. Entering the 2020 season, the layout of the paddock has changed to a certain extent, and Ferrari has lost the ability to compete for the first row. Last season, the new teammate Albon, who replaced Gasly, who was not adapted to Red Bull racing, still failed to show enough competitiveness, so Max became the only opponent of the two Mercedes drivers. But from the beginning of the season, the performance gap between the Red Bull racing car and the Mercedes W11 racing car is actually very obvious. In July, they basically had a huge gap of about 1 second per lap with the Mercedes. So for most of the season, Max's car had to wait and see behind the two black Mercedes. It wasn't until the end of the season that Red Bull made up for the performance shortcomings of their car. In this year, the reliability of Max's car is also not ideal. He is the second fewest official driver to complete the race laps this season. Only Kevin Magnussen has more retirements than him. In this case, in the end, he ended the season only 9 points behind Bottas, which can be regarded as very successful. Compared with previous seasons, Max's driving style is obviously more mature. He missed just one chance at the Turkish Grand Prix trying to pass Perez. So as long as Red Bull gives him a better car, he can finish the race even better. Then the story of the 2021 season must be very familiar to everyone. Everyone witnessed the battle of the century between Max and Hamilton this year. Although there are still many people who have disputes about the F1 official handling process in the last race of the season. But this season Max did show consistency at the World Championship level. Like we said before, he's pretty much perfect at the things he can control. With 10 pole positions and 10 victories, he set a new record of 18 podiums in a single season. In all races where there were no accidents, Max was able to finish in the top 2. His number of leading laps in a single season reached a terrifying 645 laps, more than the sum of all other drivers. In this season, he has not committed any low-level mistakes. Although at the end of the season, we can see that he has some immature and aggressive driving behavior under the pressure. On the whole, Max's performance in the 2021 season is not only worthy of the World Championship, but also a good enough result in the championship season. And after passing the epic test of Hamilton, Max seems to have completely entered another dimension. In the 2022 season, Max, who will not be engulfed by impatience and pressure, completed a perfect season with a better mentality. He used his extremely consistent performance every weekend to make the car reach the limit performance it should have. Coupled with Ferrari's frequent low-level mistakes, the F1 field in the 2022 season is destined to belong to the stage of Max's personal performance. Now, let's look back at Max's growing-up experience. This story is going to be even more legendary and precious. Jos Verstappen, a driver who was once known as a genius boy, was able to find the most suitable training method for his son Max under such a sense of gap after spending an obscure career. He didn't let Max fall victim to the continuation of his own dream under the weight. Max jumped into F1 after just 1 year of low-level competition. To some extent, Max's early recklessness and aggressiveness are the fuel for his growth. Under pressure and criticism, what we see is that Max Verstappen's growth speed and ability are getting stronger and stronger. This is probably the charm of talent. Perhaps today, there are still some people who do not agree with Max's victory. But every story, it is only in the voice of doubt that it adds to its legendary color. Max Verstappen has just turned 25. No matter how the pattern of the paddock changes in the future, I believe that he will be a historical figure that our generation of car fans will truly witness from the beginning. Future stories are still full of infinite possibilities. Well, the above is the whole content of this video. This episode is coming to an end, and everyone is welcome to leave comments. Please like and subscribe and click the bell icon to get new video updates. Thank you for watching.